Alrighty, thank you so much. So, um, 16 teams. I mentioned 16 original ball clubs will be in this league. American League will have 8 teams. The National League will have 8 teams. I did debate with myself whether I should divide those 8 teams into 2 divisions of 4. I thought about it for quite a while. Went back and forth with it, saw the pros and the cons. Um, but I ultimately opted to keep the original structure, which is just 2 leagues of 8. Um, and I'll get into further detail on how things will be different. So I'm a big fan of pre-expansion baseball, which is pretty much you know baseball from 1900 or 1901 to 1959, 1960, all those years in between that, and of course post-expansion baseball, 1960, 61 to current day. In this league, there will be elements of both of those giant time frames that I mentioned. In this video, I may mention a few, um, which again, I went back and forth thinking. For example, should there be a DH? Should there be a playoff? How many games? Things like that. Um, so without further ado, the structure. I was originally going to do I was often between a 30 game season, a 60 game season, or even the big long marathon 162. With 162, I was able to pull off a schedule that would work. The schedule would have been, and I'm going to use the Yankees, who are my favorite team, as an example so you can understand. But of course, think if it was your favorite team. Um, the Yankees face all 15 of the other teams and 10 times. So let's say the Yankees face the Dodgers 10 times, a series of 5 at home, a series of 5 away, and it'll be for all 15 teams. Now, obviously, 15 times 10 will be 150. So where do the 12 come into play? So in the case of the Yankees will play an extra 4 games against, say, the Boston Red Sox, the Baltimore Orioles, and the Cleveland Indians. And those set of 4 teams will face each other 4 times apiece, and that would make up the final 12 games. And that would be the schedule. And you would do the same concept for every other team. That way, every team plays against each other. They play home and away. So that way, the Yankees can visit the Dodgers visit them, and that goes the same for the other teams in the league. I know people, and I've seen comments online to where when it comes to the interleague, people are traditional. They don't want interleague. They like the days where American League played American League only, National League played National League only, and the only times those 2 leagues played against each other was the All-Star Game and the World Series, which I can see that point of view. I lean more toward the modern day, which is the interleague, and I actually enjoy the fact that every team faces each other, even if it's just a couple of games a year. And even if they have to alternate who's playing in whose ballpark. Um, I'm the kind of person, it's kind of like, man, what would have happened if, say, the 1993 Giants would have faced the 1993 Blue Jays in the regular season? Things like that, Obviously, with the World Series, if there's no interleague, you only get one American League, National League matchup. But of course, every year there's always those few top-tier teams. You would love to see how they would have gone head to head with the other league. And so that's why I definitely had no problem deciding that every team was going to ultimately face every team, some games home, some games away. But with that being said, I crossed off the 162 game season because it's very long. The regular season will be a total of 1,290 or 96 games. Which if every game is about an hour, that's 1,290 hours. It's a long season, even for 8 games per day. Per 162 times 8. Still a very long season, and there's great possibility for burnout, whether it's the creator, myself, or you, the viewer. That's why I opted not to go that route. I'd rather, instead of a long marathon, I'd rather give, shorter seasons, and that way there's more postseasons and more championships, and that way there's more resetting the standings and giving a chance for a team, who was in the lower part of the league to kind of redeem themselves and maybe make it, to the postseason. Speaking of the postseason, traditionally, from 1903, which was the first World Series, to 1968, the top team in the regular season in the American League played the top team in the National League. And I know most of us know this, but I know there are newer fans that may not know this. There wasn't always a playoff of 8, 10, 12, 14, or I think it's 12 now, 8, 10, or 12 teams like we have been used to for a little over 30 years now. For the first 65 to 70 World Series, it was just the top record in each league. No LCS, no LDS. And there's pros and cons with that as well, but I'm not going to get into that. I definitely opted not to go that route. It's a video game first and foremost, so and I can do whatever what I want to do. So what I'm going to do is, and this is something that I learned. I didn't know this, but the two leagues, when the season was over, the top 4 teams of each league will be called the first division, and the bottom 4 second division. This I did not know until recently, and I kind of liked that concept. And with that being said, that's who would qualify, to the World Series. So, for an example, I'll use, let's say in the American League, let's say the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Athletics, and the Tigers, and then for the National League, let's say the Giants, Dodgers, Cardinals, and Braves. Those are the top 4 teams in the respective leagues. So they'll be the 4 teams battling out in an 8-team playoff to compete for the World Series. I do have an idea as well for the bottom 4 teams or the second division, like I mentioned, but I'm going to leave that, or I'll get into further detail with that down the road. But I already had that ironed out as well, and I think it's an idea that will keep any fan that's closely following their team from that bottom division to kind of still stay tuned and not, leave if, let's say, their team doesn't do that well. And I believe in, I'm going to check this right now. I'm going to check real quick while I'm on here. And I'm not too familiar, so let's see, I'm trying to find a playoff. Golly, I look like a rookie doing this. Postseason, there you go. Okay, let's just start new. I just want to check something. Let's just make sure here. And let's see. Okay, let's just put the Yankees. Okay, so Division Series. So I will put it best of 7. I hadn't checked, and so the LDS will be best of 7. I know traditionally it's best of 5, but I want this. I mean, I'll get to the roster here in a moment, and maybe you'll understand why I'm picking 7 instead of the traditional 5. And so that'll be that. And here, 4 wild cards, so 6, yeah. But it'll be the 8. Won't be 12. I guess I'll simulate the wild card round and not post that, and then keep it to 8. With that being said, let's go back here. Please have patience with me here. Okay. All right. So, with that being said, that'll be the postseason. There will be something else with the postseason as well, like I mentioned, but I won't get into detail with that right this moment. Another thing with the regular season, going back to that, 30 games, I was thinking about that as well. With what I'm going to do, I believe it's too short. It's too short. And so this is why I'm opting to do 60. 60 games will be the perfect amount. It's not going to be too short of the season. It's not going to be too short like 30 games, not too long like 162 or 154, 108, what have you. I think 60, is a good amount for that. Now, and I'll get into maybe this video, maybe in the next video, on why 60 is the perfect number. And I think you guys will like that idea on why I picked 60. With that being said, I know you guys have seen the roster right here of the Yankees, a few of, and if you're a Yankee fan, with the exception of this guy right here, which I'll get into that here in a moment, these are some of the greatest Yankees of all time. Whether you're a Yankee fan, whether you maybe you're not a Yankee fan but respect the Yankees, this is right here is what Yankee baseball is all about. With that being said, this league is pretty much the greatest of the greatest. I think I have to add Ohtani. That might be the one person that I'm forgetting. And I have to see where I'm going to squeeze him. Thankfully, he's a two-way player, so I'm either going to have him as a full-time pitcher or hitter and see where I can fit him there. But pretty much the roster is 99% done. Give me a moment here. And pretty much ready to go. I will upload these rosters probably once the project begins. Again, feel free if you want to download it. And there will be stadiums as well, and I'm not going to get into that too much on this video. There will be videos on each stadium, so you have a gist of what you're uploading. And if you want to make your own adjustments, feel free. But that way, it's available so that if you want to download the roster and the stadiums and kind of play along on your own, and even maybe follow the schedule. Say if you're a Yankee fan and want to follow the schedule that I have for the league and kind of play on your own and see how you would fare out, or any of the 16 teams, then hey, definitely do that. It's a hell of a roster. I believe this comes from. I have to get the base roster who created this. Did an excellent job, but of course I know what I want, so I used that as a base and kind of did what I wanted to do. But the faces are pretty good, and all that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and run through the rosters real quick. As you can see, I have it set to the MLB roster. That's really all you need to see. So just take a quick, you can get a gist on who's on these teams. I know a lot of people who, maybe know the game, from early 1900s or late 1890s, 1880s to current day. Will definitely know a lot of these. If you're a newer fan, then you may know at least most, maybe not all. But this is what I have. Now, if you look at the depth chart here on the right-hand side, I kind of did a formula. You're going to notice, and so each team is going to have 6 outfielders, and of course, on most CDs, so 2 in left, or 2 considered as left fielders, 2 center, and 2 right. And then in the infield, every position, catcher, first, second, short, and third, each get 2 that are labeled primarily as that position. And that's just a balanced, perfect way in case if your shortstop is not performing, or maybe your shortstop gets injured or what have you, then at least you have a suitable backup. When it comes to the pitching, as you can see under starting pitcher, there's 8, and then closing pitcher 2. And you're going to see that in all of the teams. So to kind of explain that, and I'll probably show you later on or in a different video the lineups and the pitching rotations, but just to kind of briefly get into it, of course, there's 5 starting pitchers, 1 through 5. In the bullpen, I have 3 long relievers, okay? 3 long relievers, but they're not your traditional long reliever, which, in today's game could probably go 3 to 4 innings if there's a blowout, whether, their team is being blown out or the team that's doing the blowout, or if there's an injury earlier, what have you. These long relievers are starters as well. They could be very good or great starters, but maybe not the elite starters as in the starting 5. It's a good way to, let's say, if your starting pitcher gets injured, blown out, or, just ran out of steam or has a high pitch count early, there's 3 suitable starting pitchers that are in the bullpen. Also in case if, the game goes extra innings and goes, 15, 16 innings, then at least, the bullpen, although just only 5 guys in the bullpen, but 3 of the 5 are starting pitchers that can go, 6 to 8 innings with no problem. And then as you can see, the closing pitcher, there's 2. So of course, each team has 2 quote-unquote closers. Of course, I put 1 as the setup man, and then the better closer as the closer. And those are the only 2 of the 10 pitchers that are in each team, the only 2 that are true bullpen pitchers, 8th or 9th inning guys. And of course, it's not, well, this is not meant for franchise mode. I mean, if you want to use it for franchise mode, it's fine. Just a FYI, the other 14 teams are not really set the way I had the other 16, so you may have to do a lot of work on it, but this is really meant for what I'm doing. If you want to replicate and do the same, then you're pretty much good to go, and you can make any changes that you wish to do. So again, you should be seeing that 2 per position, 8 starting pitchers, 5 in the starting 5, 3 in the bullpen, and then the 2 closers as a setup man and closer. And that's what's going to make up each team. Now, another thing is you might see somebody that could be out of position, or let's say for an example, let's say with the Boston Red Sox. David Ortiz, along with Edgar Martinez, two of the most prolific designated hitters in American League and MLB history. And you may see when I get to the Red Sox, their outfield is so legendary, and this is coming from a Yankee fan. I kind of had to put David Ortiz as the first baseman playing defense in order for me to add that fourth outfielder as a designated hitter and be able to strengthen that lineup. And again, this is coming from a Yankee fan. I mean, I could have screwed them over and all that, but I wanted to make these 16 teams best as possible. Another thing you may notice as well, and I think here's an example. Enos Slaughter, I'll use him as an example. I don't believe he ever played for the Giants. If he did, very little. Enos Slaughter, who played, I believe 40s, 50s, 30s in that time frame, was more known as a Cardinal. But trying to fit everyone, and again, trying to keep the depth chart the way it was, had a hard time fitting in Slaughter in the Cardinals. The Giants needed like a backup center fielder, and I decided to put Slaughter there. So you might see a few players, that have played their whole career or the majority of career with a team, and I had to make a decision, unfortunately, to put them in another team that either they've never played with or maybe were less known with that team. And that's really the only way I could fit as much as the people I wanted to fit as possible. Remember, 16 teams instead of 30 or 32, so I really had to even leave people out that maybe if I had 20 teams, I would have brought them in. But of course, I'm sticking with the 16-team format. So you'll be seeing that. Another example, there will be players, J.R. Richard, and I guess we can see here, played for Houston. Unfortunately, his career was cut short, but the potential that he had was, definitely would have been a 300-game winner, would have had a ton of strikeouts, definitely over 3,000, would have been a surefire Hall of Famer if he didn't have the health problems that he had that unfortunately shortened his career. He played his whole career with the Astros. Unfortunately for the Astros fans, I do not have the Astros in the league. Again, had they had the 30, 32 team league, obviously he would have been in the Astros. They would have fit perfectly. I didn't want to leave a J.R. Richard out of it. I actually like him as a ball player. So I was able to fit him in the Giants, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's one of the long relievers of the Giants. So you'll see that as well. One of the more prominent examples of this is a George Brett. George Brett played, I know most of us know this, his whole career in the Kansas City Royals. The Kansas City Royals are not in this league. So I believe I fit him, if I'm not mistaken, as the starting third baseman of the Chicago White Sox. Same goes for like a Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn played his whole career for the Padres. Obviously, the Padres are not in the league, so I believe I put him, might be in the Phillies, if not the Dodgers. I think it's the Phillies. That's where I put him in because I felt like, with the options I had with the Phillies, Tony Gwynn was a pretty strong choice, and I fit him there. I also tried my best, and I'll use this as an example, like a Craig Biggio and a Jeff Bagwell. They played many years together in the Astros, and that's pretty much where my core fandom was at. I wanted to try my best to keep them together, and I believe they're in the Pirates, and we'll probably see that later. And I was able to keep them as teammates, despite the fact that, they were in the Astros and then never played a game as a Pittsburgh Pirate. And this concept allowed for me to strengthen the teams. I will say there are 16 teams. Of course, there's a best team, there's a worst team. But all these teams are elite, all legendary teams. Anyone can win the World Series, in my opinion. So I'm very excited. So yeah, this is the San Francisco Giants right here. If you're a Giants fan, you know, these are the 26 men that will be representing um, your team. I'm going to do a fourth video showing all 16 teams, going through that. So stay tuned.